Hey, it's Drybear. We got an update for Diablo 4 Season 2. There's a lot of good stuff in here, and we're gonna go through it today with a TLDR to start for the people that just want to know exactly what's happening in Season 2. First, you should come hang out with me on my live stream. I'm live every single day on twitch.tv/Drybear. If you do come hang out with me in the community, you're gonna find some extra money in your pockets after you do laundry. All right, so I'll warn you, this was over 2 hours of talking, and there's a lot of really good incremental changes that are going into the game. So I think that if you're someone who is enjoying Diablo 4, if you already enjoyed Diablo 4 Season 1, you're going to enjoy Diablo 4 Season 2 as it's just incrementally better than Season 1. But if you're someone that's on the fence, or perhaps someone who has been stepping away from Diablo 4 and you've been waiting for it to improve, this isn't a massive leap forward. It's not something that's a wow moment. It's just better than it was before, and they're on a good trajectory with the changes that they have listed. But for the people at home, let's do a quick summary of what is going into Season 2 for a TLDR on what's happening. Season 2 is the Season of Blood, which means you get vampire powers. There's several vampire powers you can get around channeling and life stealing, turning into a bat and dashing forward, having mist effects, and these will have some moderate impacts on how you play the game. There's also a little bit more customization than there was in Season 1, as you will collect these packs. You can see there on the right side of the screen, that list of that double row that's quite long. All those are different packs. You'll be able to mix and match those on gear to get different bonuses and effects, and they'll also be able to go to bounty boards to collect gear from this as well. So it seems to be a little bit more involved than Season 1, just slotting in the malignant hearts. So it's just a little bit of a plus from the previous season. And if you're looking for it, here are some examples of what these are. I'm not going to go through them for the TLDR, but just if you want to pause and look at it, these are some of the things you'll be able to get with the new powers. And they look pretty cool. We haven't have a list on what they're keeping from Season 1, but we do have some cool effects that are going on here. And hopefully we'll add some new variety to some classes that possibly needed it, and may even give some flavor where flavor didn't exist before. Now, there will be some reskins of existing mob types. They've touted this as being new mobs in the game. There aren't any new mobs. It seems that all of these are just going to be modded or skinned versions of the mobs that already exist. You can see there's a Revenant here. There's gonna be the Maguses that teleport around. They do have some nice mesh and decals going on here with a little bit extra VFX, but it is gonna be the same enemy types that you've seen before inside of the game, so nothing crazy special there. However, they will be adding a new type of enemy, the Bloodseekers, which are basically pseudo PvP. These will be player classes like Rogue or Sorcerer or Barbarian, played as NPCs that invade you and try to attack you. You can kill them for loot. So you can fight basically player character versions of all the classes that are showing up in the world and attacking you to create a new kind of environment, I suppose. There will be one new kind of activity in the overworld, so you're still gonna have the same basic activities that you had in Season 1. Now there's gonna be a Blood Harvest, which is essentially a Helltide adjacent event. There will always be one active, and I'm assuming that there'll always be a Helltide and a Blood Harvest somewhere in Sanctuary on the overworld. It'll have unique interactions, and it will have some special resources that drop that you can use to craft things, summon things, or get loot from, just like you would with other overworld activities. These will feature all of the reskinned and added VFX monsters that you've seen before, and you'll have possibly some new objectives in there, but it's probably gonna be a lot of what you've already seen, just with some new effects and placements. They showed this flowchart showing off the activities that you could have at endgame and what they turn into, and they're going to be 5 new encounters that you can face off against. One of them is from the original campaign, Duriel, King of Maggots. You'll face off against him. And all of these come from farming materials on the activities that you were already doing in Season 1 and pre-season. So doing Whispers will give you materials to summon Echoes of Varshan, the Season 1 primary boss. Echo of Lilith will still exist outside of all of those. Nightmare Dungeons will summon the Beast in the Ice. Helltide will give you resources to summon Grigor, which is this giant skeletal endgame boss that you can kill and farm. Both Grigor and, of course, Varshan will allow you to summon Duriel, King of Maggots, who will be able to drop uniques and uber uniques as well. And then the seasonal boss, Lord Zir, will come from farming world bosses and Legion events. So there are 5 new endgame bosses to fight. The majority of them, the only one that brings from new activities, actually none of them really do. They all come from activities you're already doing, and you'll be farming materials and resources to summon these, which will give you loot. For me personally, I was hoping to see that in season 2, there was going to be some kind of new activity that was worth doing. That wasn't just doing the same activities again and then getting these, but it is fun to see new bosses that you can face off. And hopefully they do have good loot. They did mention that the loot tables for these bosses are going to be unique, which means they have their own loot tables. They're farmable, and you can even just farm them over and over. And the materials that you use to summon them are going to be tradable as well. So even though the trade system is quite limited in Diablo 4, you will be able to possibly buy these tradable resources and then summon the bosses for repeat farming. And there's a lot of good quality of life changes going into season 2 that are heavily requested and have been for a long time. Scrolls of Escape will automatically get consumed if a hardcore player disconnects. Incenses grant bonus. A lot of the XP bonuses are now multiplicative with the bonuses you were already getting. 2 extra waypoints are being added to the skip campaign process. I don't know why they don't just give us all waypoints at this point. I don't know why it's the main town plus 2 extra and not the remaining ones, but we'll get 2 more in each zone, 10 more total, plus the main towns when you skip campaign, and you'll still have to go collect the remaining waypoints for some reason. Renown rewards now persist between seasons and new characters. It's shocking to me how hard they fought against this in the very beginning, but now all renown rewards carry between seasons and new characters across the board. They didn't specifically mention softcore and hardcore, but I'm assuming that's going to be the same rules that it has always been, that those are treated separately, but once you get it on one, you have it forever. We're also making overworld monsters match your level again past level 55 and 75. This is the thing that they did because everyone said they wanted it, but ultimately they didn't actually want it because it meant that your leveling and loot gets worse and worse and worse as you get higher and higher. So obviously the community was dead wrong about this. They're backtracking. They're going to fix that up. We're also getting 2 more mule slots available. I mean, character slots available for your characters here. And I'll tell you now, there's nothing in season 2 that increases your stash size, but there are some nice cleanups that make inventory a little bit more reasonable, but not by a whole lot. They added an occultist to the Tree of Whispers vendor area. Stashes have been added in multiple places in towns. Kiovashad, for example, is going to have 4 stash locations instead of just the 1. They've also added a purveyor of curiosities being closer to the more general area instead of being off in the corners for the town. Mount cooldowns have been reduced. Mounts have been improved in their server correcting rubber banding in the overworld and will more responsively jump over gaps. Their base movement speed has gone up, not their top speed, just their base. And they will build a boost through barricades now as well. When you teleport to a nightmare dungeon, it takes you inside instead of to the outside of the entrance. Events monsters that you have to defend will scale with the nightmare dungeons. They don't get one shot when you're doing high levels. They've improved the readability of some ground effects and have reduced the overall CC, including enemies and passive effects that exist in there as well. And glyphs will level faster. They're also making some affix changes, like Backstabber being a vulnerable application rather than scaling the initial hit damage. Monster crit resist affects your damage directly rather than them having a passive amount, which amounts to the same thing. It just means that you can avoid getting hit to prevent this from being a negative. It probably will still get dismantled, but it's going to be there as well. They've improved some of the death pulse actions, so monsters that already have a death pulse won't trigger another death pulse if they have the affix. Lightning Storm has some cleanups and Drifting Shade has some cleanups. It's going to make these better. It's not going to fix them completely, but it will make them a lot better and a lot more interesting. They also talked a lot about updating the routes. There's less backtracking, and this was the image they used to show that there was less backtracking, which to me is kind of a minor improvement. So you can see the big difference here is where they put the elite mob. So before, they were kind of in these little alcoves, these little dead ends that you have to go through. You can see on the right, they're actually part of the loop on the outside. However, this doesn't get rid of the backtracking, right? Because you still have to go here and then you have to backtrack, or you go around and you have to backtrack. And then you have to go over here and you have to backtrack and go here, right? There's still a lot of backtracking, and it still exists here, right? Because this is the door. You're still going to have to go through here and then backtrack and go here, then go over here and then backtrack and then go there. So I don't know. It's not like a massive improvement, but I guess less dead ends for mobs is kind of nice. Some long requested stuff in here. You can now favorite items, which will prevent them from being sold or salvaged, just like you can mark them for junk. Extracted aspects with the same legendary power will now be sorted next to each other when you use the auto sort feature. Sorting of normal affixes and items has been improved to be more consistent, and this is where the stats are displayed on the tooltip themselves, and the stash can now be searched and filtered to more quickly find items. based on what they showed us, it's not crazy, but you can at least sort it. So you can see here, you still have the same stash size problem, but now you can click to sort and say, I want only armor, I want only weapons, I want only jewelry, I want only of this rarity, I want only of this modifier, and then you can sort by those and find them in your stash a little bit easier. And even though the pages are still really small, you'll still be able to see up here at the top where it found those in each of the tabs themselves. We're not getting new stash tabs, but it does make things better. Gems drop as a crafting material that go into your material tab, and then you'll go to the jeweler to craft a gem. The gem that you craft at the jeweler will still take up inventory space, and you'll put it on your gear. But as you're farming, you'll get gem shards that don't take up inventory. And then when you need a gem, you can go get one, and that way you don't have to worry about it. Enchantment costs are going to be increased at base, and then they will scale slower, which means that it'll take more to enchant initially, but then over time it will scale less and less, so it won't get to as crazy as quickly. And if an item is very well under your power that you're dropping in world tiers 3 and 4, it'll just drop as a crafting material instead of an actual item, so that you can just collect it and not have to worry about inventory while you're farming. They did mention that in World Tier 4, it'll only drop Ancestral now, and World Tier 3 will drop Sacred Ancestral with higher item power. They also mentioned that Whisper Cache and Helltide Caches will provide a bonus item power increase based on your level, but then they quickly corrected it afterwards to remind you that this won't go over the item power cap, your item level cap. It'll just be a little bit better than the loot you're getting in normal worlds until you hit the cap, and then it'll stay at the cap just like everything else. So that's your Season of Blood update. The next developer live stream will be on October 10th if you're looking forward to that, and I'll put an update out for you as well. Like I said, it's incremental improvements from Season 1, so if you like Diablo 4, you're going to like Diablo 4 Season 2. And if you're on the fence, this may not be enough to bring you back, but they are heading in a good direction. If you found value in the video, leave a like down below, leave a comment for the algorithm to help this video get seen by more people, and I'll see you on my live stream. If you enjoyed yourself today, leave a like down below. You can support me and my work on Patreon and view Patreon exclusive content, link in the description. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next one.